Hi, everybody, and welcome to Robert's Haunted Pajama Party, night number 5. So we're halfway through this series. I can't believe it. It's moving fast, and hope you're finding something enjoyable about this series. And again, as always, I want to thank the Enlightened World Network, Enlightened Living channel to be able to present this information to you. I hope that you're finding it interesting. And please continue to send questions in. And again, we'll have a show sometime after the series is completed, and we'll go ahead and answer some of those questions for you. So tonight, there's a few things that I want to talk about this evening. And again, before we get started, there's a few things. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone out there of Mexican nationality or descent that is celebrating the day today. Again, say some prayers, if you would, for Matthew Delfino and for Stephen Kennedy, if you would be so kind. They still have significant health issues, and I'm sure their families, and they would appreciate your prayers and support. So thank you for that. So a couple of things that I want to talk about tonight, and this is going to be unusual. So I had to make some notes for myself so I didn't forget anything, because I actually forgot to mention this last night. In the work that I do as a medium, we all have different talents and see different things and see with different degrees of clarity, or some people have different ways that they see, hear, or experience spirit. Mine, sometimes I can't turn it off. And the other night I had a vision. And when I get these, I just want to tell people what they're like. It's not like I'm even sleeping. They take me on a journey. So sometimes spirit will kind of hijack my brain in some way, or my senses, and I get to see their life, their experience, and they take me on their story for a particular reason. And that's happened when I've looked for missing people, or I'm looking for missing objects a lot of times. And so I had an experience a couple nights ago where it actually was a vision that I'm supposed to be talking about. But unfortunately, I had to use this forum because I was told by my spirit guides that the people who need this message are going to get it through this forum. So I'm going to apologize a little bit in advance, because I can't give away the house here as far as all of the information provided. But there was a murder that somebody advised me of. And so I'm going to go through and talk about some of the specifics of the vision. And this is important for law enforcement. I know where I need to deliver this message, more or less, but it's impossible for you to contact these people. They need to kind of see it through this forum. So I'm going to give some details here. Yes, so in this vision, again, like I said, there was a murder, and there are some remains from this murder, and they are on a construction site, and they're in partially a large white bucket that is sealed. And this white bucket is amongst a bunch of gray buckets. I'm just kind of giving this general information out for law enforcement. So when they find this, they will know where it is. And they're going to find this in it's on private land. And this person is in the construction industry. When you go to the site, the home of this individual, on the property, while there's all types of different types of construction materials laying around this property, there is a large kind of canvas tent. It's probably, maybe I would say, like 30-foot long by about 15-foot wide, and maybe 10 to 12-foot high. And it's just a covering, kind of like an arched thing that's open on both ends, just to cover things. And there's a bunch of gray paint buckets in there. This white bucket is off to the side. This person knows what's in it, doesn't know what to do with it, was asked to get rid of this material and this evidence, and they find it difficult to do so. They don't know what to do with it, and they are actually getting caught up in something else that they weren't actually a part of, but are helping to cover up. The police know about this individual already. When they go out to this location, what I'm being told is that you need to copy the phone. The phone is where all the information is necessary for a conviction. The person that you're looking at is not responsible for the actual murder, but is kind of an accessory through their actions here. But this is who you will find the actual culprit of. Spirit is giving me this information because they want to make sure that the true perpetrators of this crime are actually caught. So I'm going to kind of leave it there for the moment. I kind of wrote all this stuff down so I didn't forget anything, but there are pieces that I will leave back from this, what I'm saying right now, so that if law enforcement does contact me, that they do know what I'm talking about, and I'll be able to provide some additional details to them. And I do want to talk about too. The one important thing here is local law enforcement. This is in a smaller town. Please do not hesitate to bring the federal resources into this investigation. You will need them. Don't let pride get in your way of trying to find the true perpetrators of what's going on. So I'm going to leave it right there. And I think Mark's going to try to eventually flip the page so I can see what my topic is for the evening. I wrote this all on 4 pages, so I have notes to make sure I don't forget anything. But that was very important. So I apologize for the indulgence there, but it's necessary that we all do the right things when we get information that needs to get to the right people. So tonight, I would kind of call this episodes, as like the movies, what was it? Three, what was Mark? 3 something and a baby. 3 men and a baby.
Yeah.
So we can't think of it. It's a long time ago. But tonight's show is basically 3 hauntings and a warning because of what's going on. But I want to get into these stories and tell you what happens and things, some attachments that I have experienced in my life, kind of what I learned from them, what to do if you have an attachment, either to yourself, to a family member, to an object in the home, or to the home itself, or to the land, because attachments can happen to any or all of those things. And it's important that you kind of figure out what's going on so that you know how to remove it. An experienced medium will be able to tell exactly what's going on, and I'm always told how to remove it. So I think, if you're running into this type of problem, and it becomes serious and you don't know what to do, please contact someone who can help you. And we'll get into the reasons for that in a little bit. So the first one that I want to talk about today, I'm going to tell you about because it's actually a 2-part story. And this story has to do with one client and 2 visits to that home, to the same home, because this person does have ability and kind of attracts things on occasion. And like many people that I talk to that are clients, have dealt or lived with spirit in their home. They know they don't feel threatened by it, and they live with the spirit in their home for years. And until one day when maybe something changes or they see something and then they get afraid, and then they think that this entity needs to move on. And in this case, again, this individual is known, is still living. The people involved in it are still about and maybe watching or watch this on rebroadcast. So I will change some of the details that would be identifiable with these individuals just to try to make the story that I could tell the story without feeling like I'm giving away the client's privacy. So the first story was interesting to me because it was the first time Robert Painley was ever a gift as such. In my younger days, it would have been nice to do that as when I was much younger. But now I'm a gift because of my mediumship abilities. And I was a gift for a birthday party for a young woman. And it was great. So I was looking forward to going there. I felt great energy from the intended client that evening. And as I got to the home, I walked in, the energy was great. I was greeted, very nicely and warmly. But it was one of those homes that was a townhouse. And when you walk into the front door, immediately off to the right-hand side, there was a stairway that went up to the second story of this townhouse. And then you'd walk in and there was a kitchen and dining room and living room and stuff downstairs and a patio out back. So in that, I walked in, and as I greeted my hostess for the evening, I kind of felt something upstairs, something energy-wise. And I remember just kind of, while I was standing there, just kind of leaning and looking up the stairwell a little bit as I'm looking up to the top of the stairwell. And I see kind of like the bottom half of somebody standing there. And I got a really kind of not great feeling about what was there. So I said, can you hold on one second? I don't want to go and meet everybody, all the guests yet. I think there's an issue here I need to address. So I kind of took one step over toward the stairwell and looked up there and saw a ghost up at the top of the stairs. It was interesting. Wasn't expecting that because, like I said, sometimes I see these in advance, so it was a bit of a surprise. And so I said to my hostess, I said, what do you want me to do here? I said, I'd like to come in and do the reading that I need to do, but I feel like you have a ghost here, and I need to get rid of this energy first because it may kind of change my reading, and I'm going to be disturbed by this energy the entire time I'm in the house. And she said, what? She said, I've always felt that the house was kind of haunted, but I just let it go. I go, well, how long have you been here? She said, 12 years or so. I said, well, we'll go ahead, and this has been here like the entire time you've been here. I don't think you know this individual, but I need to check this out. So I said, go ahead and be with your guests for a minute. Let me walk upstairs and see what I get. So I walked up the stairs, and the entity that I saw at the top of the stairs was gone. So I walked up to the stairs, and I walked into the client's bedroom. And as I was up in the bedroom, I'm kind of walking around, and I got kind of a creepy feeling. As I walked into the master bathroom upstairs, I could see the vision of my client showering and this ghost watching her shower. And so I turned around very quickly because I felt something behind me. And sitting in the chair next to the bed was this spirit. And it wasn't that it was a bad spirit. It was just kind of creepy. It was this kind of lecherous energy about it, where he just kind of enjoyed watching my client sleep and shower and go about her day. So I called downstairs, brought my client up and said, hey, look, here's what's going on. Do you ever feel uncomfortable when you're showering? She goes, all the time. When I'm showering, I keep looking back and trying to see what's there. I said, this is why. And I explained what was happening. And she said, that's gross. I said, it is. Let me say, and I'm going to tell you. And said, I don't feel that you're going to have great sleep either, because you're going to feel this energy right next to the bed. And on this side where this chair is, he sits there, and this is what happens. I said, I'm also hearing footsteps in this upstairs hallway. So you would also hear footsteps here in this home. She said, that's amazing. I always thought that the footsteps were coming from my neighbor's house. I said, no, that's here in your home. So we went about and had to go back downstairs. And I had a clearing ceremony at that point because I just had to let him know what he was doing was wrong, that he needed to move on. Found out a lot more about this spirit and why he was earthbound and why he didn't want to cross. He really wasn't happy in this life, but found some kind of anonymity being passed without crossing that he kind of enjoyed. And he felt welcome in this home. The client's energy was fantastic. The home was an enjoyable place to be. It was quiet, where there was a second room in the house where he kind of spent most of his time in the closet there. That was his area. But he would come out of that area and kind of watch what was going on with the living. So eventually, I did a clearing ceremony and moved him on, and then went downstairs. It took me about an hour to do all this. I went downstairs and was able to do a reading for the family that was downstairs for the girl's birthday. So it all turned out very, very nice in the end. But this spirit was attached to this location because of the energy there. It was drawn to the energy of this location. And then it was basically welcomed. So if you're feeling something in your home and it's not welcome, claim your space. That'll be the first thing I tell you to do. This is my home. You cannot be here. Claim your space. You need to do that with a sense of authority. Sometimes I'm told by clients that I told them to leave. I was like, how did you tell them to leave? And I said, please, can you kind of go? It's not going to work. What would you do if you had an intruder in your home? This is an intruder. Treat him as such, particularly if you know that they're not known to you, or you're not feeling that energy, or feeling uncomfortable, uneasy with the spirit. It's probably not anybody that you know. Also, after the first thing that I would do going up there, if you felt somebody, if you're not in God's light, you can't be here. You cannot communicate with me. That would kind of get rid of anything that would be, maybe perhaps dangerous, or that you probably shouldn't be working with. But on the other hand, you also want to make sure that you're not inviting this energy to stay. even in my own home, when I moved in with Mark here into his house many, many, many moons ago now, we actually had one of the previous owners of the home was in here in the master bedroom closet. And I did tell Mark that for about a year. But when we were doing construction in this house, on the master bathroom, she got agitated because it was interfering with her, and she didn't like the noise, and she didn't like changing her house that she considered her home still. So I had no choice at that point to say, it's been lovely having you around. You haven't caused any problems, but it's time for you to go. And I've never felt her in the house again. So we've had a little minor cleansing ceremony here, even in my own home, when this happened. So again, that was a bonus story. I didn't plan on telling that one today. A lot more to that and things that she did and made her presence known, but we'll talk about that maybe another time. But what I wanted to go into here is in that same home. Again, like I said, she kind of drew energy, and she was friends with like Native American gentleman who was a shaman in this tribe, and he also did this kind of light work with his tribe. And he came over for a visit probably about a year and a half, a couple of years later, and when he came there, he actually brought energy with him. And this energy was interesting, and I'll get to how it was interesting in a minute. But this is how this energy found this place again. Again, it was attached to this person. He was doing a cleansing or a clearing of a home. And this energy, the spirit, attached itself to him. Again, great energy, an amazing individual. I have met him. And it just to kind of attach itself to this healer. And it was very shortly thereafter that he paid a visit to my client. And this spirit decided to jump ship and kind of get into her home. And she called me one day and she said that she was going to take that second room where we found that first spirit a year and a half before. And she told me that she was changing that. That was then her office. She was changing that office into a bedroom at that point, making it from the office into a bedroom. So she brought a friend over, a neighbor of hers that came over, and they were starting to move some of the office stuff out and get it into, kind of move some bedroom stuff in to make this a place. We live in South Florida. We got a lot of visitors most of the time. She wanted a more comfortable place for her guests. So as they were doing this, her helper, she had a wall of masks from New Orleans, masks that she acquired from Latin America on her travels, and they covered one whole wall. And as she turned around to do something, she saw one of the masks. The eyes there was blackness there, and then all of a sudden she saw the mask eyes open and eyes behind the mask hanging on the wall. She was so frightened, she screamed, ran down the stairs, out of the house, and refused to come back to help her. She was petrified of what had happened and what she saw. And so my client called me after this event and said, hey, Robert, do you mind coming back to the house? I think I've got something here that needs some attention. And right away, I kind of knew already what was there. I kind of saw it in my mind, the eyes opening. And again, sometimes they show me what's going to happen. It's going to scare me, or something that I may be frightened. They kind of show me in advance. And this was one of those times that they did that, where I just kind of saw the eyes open behind what looked like a kind of a Zorro mask in my mind before I got there. So a couple days went by, and made an appointment and went to go see her. And went upstairs and walked into the room. And like I said, there was a wall full of masks there, and there were probably maybe, I would say 20 masks maybe or so on the wall. And I turned around and looked, and the eyes did the exact same thing. Opened up, looked straight at me, and as I moved across the room, the eyes kind of followed. It was kind of like one of those paintings that looks at you as you're moving. But there obviously shouldn't have been a pair of eyes. It was hanging against the wall. You could see the wall behind on every other one. It was just this mask where it had kind of taken over this mask. It was attracted to it for some reason. And so I told my client which one it was. And she said, it's got to go. I got to get rid of it. I said, you don't have to. We can remove the spirit, send it on, keep the mask if you want. So, no, I want this out of my house. And so I actually did send the spirit on. Again, we did a crossing ceremony, tried to find out what it was. And this was a Native American spirit that had latched on to the shaman, but just needed help, needed guidance. It was a person that had passed, a gentleman that passed relatively recently, within a couple of years of being here. And it just needed some direction. It was a benign spirit, but spooky, and would have remained there and maybe have gotten stronger or something had there been no intervention. So I kind of want to talk, that's where, sometimes, again, one wasn't attached to the place and energy. The next one was attached to a, kind of an item in the house that it kind of took over. The next one I'm going to tell you that was kind of the same client that I had. So I had another one that was, to me, a little creepy because I don't see things like this often, and it kind of is a bit akin to the vision I told you about before that was for law enforcement. But this one was, I had a client here in Fort Lauderdale, and the individual, again, I'm going to try and protect a lot of privacy here, so I'm kind of choosing my words carefully. This person did recreational activities in this condominium where they had. And it was kind of a place for fun, so where they could go and enjoy and have a good time here in Fort Lauderdale, enjoy the sights and sounds of Fort Lauderdale and everything Fort Lauderdale has to offer. And so, and he wouldn't be in this space all the time. So occasionally, when he would go to that space, he may go out and party a little bit and have a good time. But he told me that there were times where he felt the presence of somebody. This was on the 7th floor of a condo building here in Fort Lauderdale, and that he would feel the presence of somebody in the house, and it didn't feel like him. And while he was in an altered state, he would talk to this spirit, energy, whatever it was that he was sensing or feeling, and it was in this kind of almost a euphoric state where he would kind of get the energy of whatever this was, but it kind of spooked him enough that he gave me a call. So I went to this place, and I just decided that okay, I'll get the next day, because I didn't like it. I didn't like the feeling of the energy there or anything else. And when I got there, I walked into the place. I walked onto the balcony. In the condo itself, it didn't feel bad. But what happened was, I went out onto the balcony, and I saw a shadow go by, and someone had committed suicide on that building. Now, this was a completely different entity that I went there to see, but I could tell what happened. And I asked my client what happened, if there was a suicide here, and he said several years before that someone had jumped off that building. This was not a ghost. This was residual energy that I'm seeing the events that happened in this place. But again, kind of one of those things that if you're sensitive and you bought this condo, you might see or feel from time to time. But in this instance, with this client, I went out onto the patio, and I could see out on the patio, I could see Fort Lauderdale as it existed in the 60s. Kind of some of the buildings went away, and I could see empty land and kind of just areas. And this is the late 60s as they're showing me this area in my mind of what it looked like. And in this area, I'm seeing a blonde woman, 20-ish or so, late teens, early 20s, kind of in the distance on the road. It was kind of dirt road. It's paved now. It was kind of a dirtish road, kind of one of those South Florida, half sand, half shell kind of areas. And she was walking down there to this building, walking down the street, and I could just see her. And she got down close to the building, and she looked straight up on the 7th floor to the balcony, straight at me. And I knew who this was right then and there. And she gave me her story. So I kind of like to call it my info dump. When spirit gives me information, it's kind of 20 things at once. I can't stop it from happening. It's just like, here's everything about me that you kind of need to know. And so this was a woman who came from the Northeast. She was about 19, 20 years old. She had come to Fort Lauderdale to have a good time, to leave, kind of college and party down here on vacation. And she overdosed on drugs. but her spirit became locked with the land associated around this condo. And what she would do is she would sense other people's energies who had addictions. So anybody who maybe was an addict through alcoholism, through drugs, through sex, through whatever, she would kind of sense that energy and make their way to see them. Sometimes she would influence their behavior. Sometimes she could kind of get them to feel the sensation of wanting to do drugs or wanting to do alcohol, and they would kind of feel this need to do that. What she was gaining from this was that sensation of how she passed, of having that euphoric state, and she was attached to this plane, enjoying that very earthly pleasure to them. I don't know what that's like. I'm actually drinking herbal tea today, but what happens is that she was getting involved in this sensation. She was getting involved. So she would seek out people throughout this condo, throughout other buildings around this area. And anybody who was getting into this, if she felt an addiction at all, or if she felt that she could, or somebody was doing drugs or alcohol, or was addicted to sex or porn or whatever they were addicted to, she would kind of migrate herself and go into homes and buildings, find them, and kind of live vicariously through the sensations they were feeling. Because again, when you're having those sensations of euphoria and or anything, the amount of energy expended through sex or through drugs or whatever that you're taking, that is energy as well. And the spirit is energy, and they can feel and sense and feed off that energy that was occurring. And she would seek this out. And he was bothered by this spirit a few times in this space. And I managed to protect his home, his condo, which is about all I can do, and explain to him what his actions were going to cause, how he could keep himself safe through that process. But I couldn't get rid of her. She was not ready to leave. She was not going to pay attention to me. And again, she wasn't in the building with me. She let her presence be known, but I couldn't help her. She didn't want help. I can kind of, in that situation, perhaps do something. But when a spirit is in a home, it's kind of like cornered, I'd say, where I can get at them a little bit more to work with them. But spirits can move, and if they don't want to be found or seen, they can pull their energy back and do other things and make it challenging for me to do that. I have her energy. I know what she's doing. She's got a standing invitation if she needs help or wants help. But all I could do is that for the moment with her. And she's still about. So that's the three stories. The word of warning that I'm going to give you here a little bit is that there are things out there, and our spirits out there, who like to communicate with you for good reasons, but there are also entities out there that want to be around you and can influence your behavior, particularly if you have behaviors that are addictive in nature. Addiction will bring forth some type of lower energy sometimes, and this was one of them. So that's one of those things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and kind of the three stories that I wanted to share about how different spirits can attach themselves in different ways. And this last woman, she's not what I would consider a bad soul. She's just confused and just likes this earthly pleasure so much that I can't move her from that at the moment. I could go to the area and try again, but my interest at this point was helping out my client so that he would not be bothered from the spirit again. So all that being said, what do you do? If you find an attachment or you feel that something is, I always warn people when they go to estate sales or to garage sales and things, be careful what you buy. I can't tell you how many places I've been where there's a mirror or one time it was an old Victrola. One time it was actually an old slot machine from Miami from the 20s, from a speakeasy that someone had purchased. And the energy associated with some of these items that you purchase and bring into your home can have negative energy or something attached to it. I gave you the story already of the car a couple of nights ago where a spirit was attached to that car. It was attachment to that car. And here, you can get all types of attachments, but if you find yourself having, or you feel that there's an attachment of some sort and it's affecting you negatively, please seek out somebody that can help you. There are things that you can do to mitigate your exposure. What you want to do, even in your own home, is to make it an unpalatable place for spirit to go, particularly negative spirit. Again, you want your family, you want your spirit guides, you want all these great angelic energy, you want all that in your home. What you don't want is something that's going to take away from that. And if you find an attachment, they attach to you usually for a reason, and that's to draw from your energy. So if somebody's giving you good energy, that's the kind of energy that you want around you. But a taker is not something that you want in your earthly plane. It's certainly something that you don't want on a spiritual plane either. So what you really want to do is make yourself, your temple, your body, a place that is unpalatable for something negative to attach to. Be reverent, pray, stay centered, stay balanced, stay grounded. All of these things. Enlightened World Network has so many programs on it to help keep you in these states, in a kind of a sacred state. That's where you want to be. It makes you a less likely target. If you have an addiction of some sort, please seek help for that addiction. It's not good for you on the earthly plane, but it certainly makes you a lot more open to have some type of negative influence over your life from a spiritual perspective as well. That's kind of the advice. There are so many specifics, and there are so many different cases out there. But if you really find an attachment to a thing, I would suggest that anything that you buy that you're going to bring into your home, do a blessing outside the house, sage the item, send your intention with it. Hey, whoever owned this item before I got it, thank you very much for taking care of this item. I promise to treasure it. It's now my item. If you're attached to this at all, this is now my item. And just, your intention of you're going to take care of this and, and welcome it into your home and be part of your environment. It should be, if you're going to have and maintain a sacred space, you want to do it with anything you bring into your home. And that would be a suggestion to make sure if you're buying something or an object and bring it in there. If you have an attachment to the home or land itself, that can be a little trickier. If you have, sometimes you'll have a vortex, or sometimes you'll have a door to the other side in a home. You could be on a ley line. There could be all kinds of numerous issues associated with the land that I've seen over time. It could be on sacred land. It could be up on somebody buried on the land. It could be a battlefield was fought there or something. So many things can happen on land. And while everyone may not sense that, if you are sensitive in some way, bits and pieces of these types of events may come through. So pay attention to what you're feeling when it comes to attachments. And if you feel something, obviously, try and keep yourself in a sacred space. I always suggest, obviously, that you do some type of salt scrub and picture that, that when I go to a client's home and I can have a possibility of attachment, first thing I do is protect myself. But when I come back before I come to my own home, I make sure that I cleanse myself again. And then we'll usually do a salt scrub before I go to bed. And then I actually have holy water from Lourdes that has rose water with it. And I will wash myself with that as well to make sure that I've cleansed my body and my soul from anything that I may have encountered during the day. Those are the tips. If you have any questions or suggestions about this topic, it's an ample topic. There are so many things that can happen. I can't possibly address them all in this limited amount of time. But I do want you to actually be safe, be secure. Again, my mission is to make people safe and comfortable in their own home. And I hope that some of the information, the stories that I've given as examples today, give you some food for thought and give you some type of examples of how you can kind of protect yourself in your own space and in your own body and with your own spirit. So thank you very much for watching again. And tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about why ghosts inhabit hotels. So I got some more hotel stories for you tomorrow of encounters that I've had in different hotels around the world. And thank you again so much for watching. And I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, Terry Angel, for all your hard work in the background. And love and peace. We'll see you all tomorrow night. Good night.